Good afternoon and salam perpaduan. This is Updates at Noon. I'm Mohana Priya. Making the headlines today, Batangkali landslide search operation, a model for future reference. At least 6 killed in Spain after bus plunges into river. After the conclusion of the Batangkali landslide search and rescue SAR operation, the focus of the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, is now on cleaning operations at the location of the tragedy. According to its Deputy Director General for Post-Disaster, Datuk Khairul Sharil Idris, investigation of the incident is also being conducted. However, the number of personnel has been reduced accordingly to suit the nature of the task.
Jadi perkembangan akan dibincangkan oleh ketua pos komander pos tempat kajian dan untuk menentukan bila operasi pembersihan ataupun operasi yang berkaitan dengan kejadian di hulu di Batangkali ini akan diselesaikan. Dari segi penilaian dan juga untuk verification dari mangsa ada beberapa cara. Jadi pihak berkuasa telah mengadakan perbincangan dengan mendapatkan maklumat daripada operator resort berkenaan.
He added that NADMA will immediately deliver aid to the families of the victims involved in the landslide. He will also meet the family members in question to expedite the channeling of the aid. On a related matter, Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Akril Sani Abdullah Sani hopes that the Batangkali landslide SAR can be an example for agencies to use for disaster management in the future. Yesterday, he officially announced the end of the SAR operation for the victims of the landslide tragedy at 12 noon after he confirmed that there were no more victims involved or missing in the incident.
Saya percaya inilah merupakan satu-satunya operasi yang saya lihat setiap agensi memainkan peranan sesuai dengan apa yang telah digarispandukan dalam arahan MKN nombor 20. Jadi tidak ada situ pertindahan ataupun overlapping dari segi ataupun redundancy dalam segi kita melaksanakan tugas.
He also hoped that NADMA can organize a table talk periodically involving all agencies needed so that the smooth carrying out of operations can be continued in the future. The SAR operation in the landslide tragedy involved over 250 personnel from various agencies, helped by tracker dogs and heavy machinery. Soft earth and rainy weather also hampered movements and demanded the perseverance of rescuers. The number of residents affected by floods and evacuated to flood relief centres PPS, especially those who live by the sea or on water, has reportedly increased. Meanwhile, the number of evacuees in Kota Belud remained at 143 since yesterday. According to a statement by the State Disaster Management Committee Secretariat, the flood in Kota Belud caused 62 residents from 26 families to be placed in PPS Dewan Sekolah Kebangsaan Pekan. The remaining were evacuated to Dewan Sekolah Jenis Kebangsaan Chunghua. Meanwhile, the number of residents living by the seaside or on water moved to PPS due to the high tide has increased to 1,483 people from 308 families as of this morning. It is a significant increase compared to the 1,288 residents from 267 families recorded yesterday. 684 residents from 122 families were moved to a PPS in Sandakan. 54 more from 15 families moved to a PPS in Kota Kinabalu, while the remaining 745 from 171 families took refuge at 6 PPS in Pitas. Now, the water level rose in several low areas in Kuching after the massive high tide yesterday. According to the Sarawak Department of Irrigation and Drainage, the peak of the king tide phenomena was on Saturday, when the water level rose as high as 6.2 meters. Posts on social media showed areas affected by the phenomena, including Pekan Lundu, Kampung Tambai, Kampung Tambirat in Asajaya, Kampung Masjid Sebuyau, Kampung Gita and Kampung Samariang Batu in Kuching. The water level began rising at about 6:30 p.m. before it subsided over an hour later. Most of the residents have already made precautionary measures by moving their electrical appliances to higher places as well as their vehicles to higher areas. A similar king tide phenomena is expected to occur again today, in which the water level is expected to rise up to 6.2 meters tall, with its peak at about 7:30 p.m. tonight. Now, the Malaysian Fire and Rescue Department, JBPM, began sending 21 tons of food supply for 1,400 orang asli families in several posts in Gua Musang, Kelantan. The service of the JBPM air unit was needed because the villages were no longer accessible via land routes. Department of Orang Asli Development Jakoa Deputy Director Roslina Bun said the land routes were blocked off due to continued heavy rain.
Pihak Jakoa dah mengambil inisiatif untuk menghantar bakul makanan ke beberapa pos yang terlibat di mana mereka ini terputus hubungan dengan luar disebabkan jalan yang rosak dan juga ada beberapa berlaku runtuhan dan juga ada jambatan yang runtuh jugalah. Itu jambatan yang berhampiran di kalau di pos GOP ni adalah di jambatan Belaa dan juga yang tanah runtuh yang berlaku antara pos Bala ke Belatin.
If the weather permits, the team will continue sending food supply to Kampung Simpur and Kampung Jadir, which have a total of 232 families. A total of 1,220 out of 4,732 premises checked during Ops Terjah nationwide were found to have experienced a shortage of essential items. Deputy Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Minister Fuzia Saleh said efforts were being immediately carried out to restore the supply.
Jadi setakat ini di seluruh negara, kalau tak musim perayaan pun ada barang-barang yang terkawal dan ada barang-barang yang bersubsidi. Jadi seluruh negara kita sudah pun mengadakan 4,732 Ops Terjah, ya. Ops Terjah di seluruh negara 4,732 dan di situ ada dalam 20%, 1,220 cases yang kita dapati yang tidak apa orang kata menepati ya ataupun mencapai bekalan yang ada masalah bekalan. Tapi tidaklah bermaksud ada masalah semua. Ada mungkin yang ni ada masalah bekalan telur ke apa ke, dan itu kita dapati di seluruh negara.
She said eggs, sugar, packet cooking oil and wheat flour were among the essentials in short supply. Speaking after monitoring the festive season maximum price control scheme in Kuantan, Pahang, she explained that several factors are believed to be the cause of the limited supply, including transport problems and delivery schedules. Coming up in our foreign segment, China to stop publishing daily COVID figures. But first, at least 6 people died and 2 were injured after a bus plunged into a river while crossing a bridge in Spain's northwestern Galicia region. The accident took place on Saturday night near the city of Vigo and the border with Portugal. The regional La Voz de Galicia newspaper said the bus was carrying people visiting their loved ones in jail in Monterroso in central Galicia. 2 people, including the bus driver in his 60s, were rescued and taken to hospital. According to rescuers, the emergency services recovered 2 corpses near the accident site, while 4 others were found in the river later on Sunday. Galicia Emergency Services, in announcing the suspension of search efforts, said the rescue teams confirmed that all people missing have been recovered. The authorities said a motorist first raised the alarm after noticing a safety rail on the bridge had been damaged. Rescuers then received a call from the bus, which helped them find the wreckage. The authorities also said rescue operations were complicated by the heavy rain due to the night, causing the level of the Leres River, where the bus fell, to rise sharply. They said the cause of the accident was not yet known, but the poor weather could have played a role. The civil guard said the bus driver had tested negative for alcohol and drugs. A broken-down boat carrying 57 Rohingya refugees landed on Indonesia's western coast yesterday after a month at sea. The wooden vessel arrived around 8 a.m. local time on a beach in the westernmost Aceh province. The boat had a broken engine and it was carried by the wind to a shore in Ladong village in Aceh Besar district. Police arrived at the beach after being informed by some locals that the boat had docked there. 4 of the 57 men on board were sick and had been transported to a hospital. The local immigration office said the refugees will be temporarily housed at a local government facility and it will coordinate with the International Organization for Migration and the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees so that the matter can be handled well. Thousands of the mostly Muslim Rohingya, heavily persecuted in Myanmar, risk their lives each year on long, expensive sea journeys, often in poor quality vessels, in an attempt to reach Malaysia or Indonesia. This is the third Rohingya refugee boat to arrive in Muslim-majority Indonesia in recent months. According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, 2 boats carrying a total of 229 Rohingya landed in Aceh on the 15th and 16th November. China will no longer publish daily figures for COVID-19 cases and deaths, ending a practice that began in early 2020. Now, the decision to scrap the daily virus count comes amid concerns that the country's blooming wave of infections is not being accurately reflected in official statistics. The National Health Commission did not offer an explanation for its decision to stop releasing daily COVID data. It said the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention will publish information about the outbreak for reference and research purposes. The Commission, however, did not specify the type or frequency of information to be published. On Chinese social media, some users responded to the decision with cynicism, pointing to the increasing discrepancy between official statistics and infections within their families and social circles. Cities across China are struggling with surging COVID cases, resulting in pharmacy shelves stripped bare and overflowing hospitals and crematoriums after Beijing suddenly dismantled its zero-COVID regime earlier this month. Beijing last week admitted the scale of the outbreak had become impossible to track following the end of mandatory mass testing. Last week, China also narrowed the criteria by which COVID-19 fatalities were counted, a move experts said would suppress the number of fatalities attributable to the virus. A relentless winter storm brought Christmas Day danger and misery to millions of Americans yesterday as intense snow and frigid cold gripped parts of the eastern United States, with weather-related deaths rising to at least 31. A crisis situation was unfolding in Buffalo, in western New York, where a blizzard has left the city marooned, with emergency services unable to reach high-impact areas. Bodies were discovered in vehicles and under snowbanks as emergency workers struggled to reach for those in need of rescue, while the city's international airport remained closed till Tuesday. More than 200,000 people across several eastern states woke up without power on Christmas morning, and many more had their holiday travel plans upended, although the 5-day-long storm featuring blizzard conditions and ferocious winds showed signs of easing. The extreme weather sent wind-chill temperatures in all 48 contiguous U.S. states below freezing over the weekend, stranded holiday travelers with thousands of flights cancelled, and trapped residents in ice and snow-encrusted homes. Road ice and whiteout conditions also led to the temporary closure of some of the nation's busiest transport routes, including the cross-country Interstate 70. Nepal's president appointed Pushpa Kamal Dahal as the Prime Minister for the third time yesterday after his Maoist party cobbled together a coalition following elections last month. Dahal, better known as Prachanda or the Fierce One, hid out for years in the jungle during Nepal's 1996 to 2006 civil war that killed nearly 17,000 people and led to the end of the monarchy. Sagar Acharya, a spokesman for President Bidya Devi Bandari, said that Dahal had been appointed as new Prime Minister and would be sworn in at 4 p.m. local time. Following the 2006 peace accords, Dahal transformed his Maoist revolutionary movement into a political party and served briefly as Prime Minister in 2008 to 2009 and again in 2016 to 2017. Elections in the Himalayan nation of 29 million people on 20th November saw the ruling coalition of Prime Minister Sheikh Bahadur Deuba lose its majority, although his Nepali Congress remained the largest party. Dahal's Maoist CPN party has now formed an alliance with another communist party, the CPN-UML, and 6 others, including television host Rabi Lamichani's new National Independent Party. Thousands rallied in Azerbaijan in the Nagorno-Karabakh region's largest city, Stepanakert, to protest the blockade of the only land link to Armenia. Under a bright sun, Stepanakert's main Renaissance Square was flooded with protesters with a giant Armenian flag hoisted above the ground. Baku and Yerevan fought 2 wars in 2020 and the 1990s over the contested region of Nagorno-Karabakh, an Armenian-populated enclave. For nearly 2 weeks, Azerbaijani activists have blocked the Lachin corridor, the only land link to Armenia, to protest what they claim is illegal mining. Yerevan has accused Baku of staging demonstrations and creating a humanitarian crisis in the mountainous enclave. Armenia's parliament has said Karabakh was suffering from shortages of food, medicine and fuel following the closure of the corridor. Azerbaijan, however, insists there is no blockade and that civilian cars can move freely to and out of Karabakh. A Frenchman suspected of killing 3 people in a Paris shooting at a Kurdish cultural center has confessed to a pathological hatred for foreigners. A Paris prosecutor said the suspect was depressive and suicidal and said he wanted to kill foreigners after a burglary in his home in 2016. The shooting at the Kurdish capital centre and nearby hairdressing salon on Friday sparked panic in the city's bustling 10th district, home to numerous shops and restaurants and a large Kurdish population. The prosecutor said 3 others were wounded in the attack, but none are in a life-threatening condition, with 1 now out of hospital. The suspect said he initially wanted to kill people in the northern Paris suburb of Seine-Saint-Denis, which has a large immigrant population. But he changed his mind as few people were around and his clothing made it difficult for him to reload his weapon. He then returned to his parents' house before deciding to go to the 10th district instead. Many in the Kurdish community have expressed anger at the French security services, saying they had done too little to prevent the shooting. The frustration boiled over on Saturday and furious demonstrations clashed with police in central Paris for a second day running after a tribute rally. And coming up next in sports, Spurs boss Conte may rest all his World Cup stars. Tottenham Hotspur boss Antonio Conte suggested yesterday that he might rest his World Cup players in the game at Brentford on Boxing Day that marks the Premier League's return. In a preview posted on the club website, Conte said it had only been about a week after the World Cup and it was a big effort for the players who played at the tournament in Qatar. Despite being excited about the return of the Premier League, Conte said the players who were involved in the World Cup might be in a different physical condition. He said he would give a chance to those who had to stay behind and train, while pushing many players to find good physical condition at the same time. Tottenham had players representing Wales, Uruguay and Denmark who were knocked out at the group stage, as well as South Korea, England, Senegal and Brazil, who went out at the quarterfinals or earlier in Qatar. Argentine Christian Romero and French goalkeeper Hugo Lloris played every minute of the final, and Ivan Perisic appeared for Croatia the day before as they took third place. Meanwhile, Mikel Arteta has urged leaders Arsenal to carry on from where they left off by winning their first Premier League title since 2004, when English football's top flight resumes after the World Cup break. Kevin De Bruyne believes the Manchester City teammate Erling Haaland can go on and score 800 goals before his career ends. Haaland, who will return to the city of his birth when the champions resume their Premier League title defence at Leeds on Thursday, has scored 24 goals in just 19 appearances since his summer move from Borussia Dortmund. De Bruyne said Haaland already has about 200 goals and he can probably go up to 800 if he stays fit and continues his practices. The Belgian international has played with a host of top strikers in his career and is well placed when it comes to 22-year-old Haaland's place in the pecking order. De Bruyne enjoyed a fruitful relationship with the club's record goal scorer Sergio Aguero before the Argentinian left the Etihad Stadium in 2021. He has also combined with Romelu Lukaku on international duty, former City teammate Gabriel Jesus, and new World Cup winner Julian Alvarez, a current fellow City player. De Bruyne further said it is harder to make comparisons between all of the different strikers that have scored 300 or 400 goals so far, but young and goal-obsessed Haaland may score beyond that. Patience is the key for Al Nassr in their pursuit of Cristiano Ronaldo, so says the Saudi Arabian club's sporting director Marcelo Salazar. Ronaldo is a free agent after leaving Manchester United in November. The 37-year-old endured a disappointing World Cup with Portugal scoring just once and eventually having to settle for a substitute role in their knockout games. Al Nassr was reported to be leading the chase for Ronaldo earlier in December, and though a deal has not yet been struck, Salazar said the club will bide its time. When asked if Ronaldo featured in his plans for the immediate future, Salazar said he is not allowed to provide a definite answer, adding that everyone should wait and see how things unfold until the end of the year. He further noted that the negotiation with Ronaldo is of enormous magnitude, not only for the club but also for the country and for world football, and it has to be conducted by higher authorities. Salazar also believes Ronaldo would not necessarily be taking a step down to moving to Saudi Arabia, since many of the players that joined the club previously were positively surprised by the team's capabilities. Family members spent Christmas yesterday with Pelé at the Sao Paulo hospital, where the legendary footballer is battling worsening cancer, as well as kidney and heart problems. Fans of the player, considered by many the greatest of all time, have been expressing hope for his recovery since he was hospitalized in late November. Shortly after midnight, at the start of Christmas Day, Pelé's daughter, Kelly Nascimento, posted a picture of the footballer's wife, Marcia Aoki, and other family members gathered at the Albert Einstein Hospital, where he is being treated. On Wednesday, the hospital announced Pelé's colon cancer was showing progression and he needed more extensive care to treat kidney and heart failure. Earlier that day, his daughters had announced he will not be home for Christmas. Pelé had received several messages of support since his hospitalization, including one from French star Kylian Mbappé, who called on followers to pray for the king. Pelé took the 1958 World Cup by storm when he was 17 years old, netting a hat-trick in the semi-finals and 2 more goals in the final, catapulting his own career and launching the soccer dynasty of the Brazilian national team. He is the only player in history to have won 3 World Cups in 1958, 1962 and 1970. Juventus troubles will continue tomorrow when the shareholders of Italy's biggest football club meet to approve the latest disastrous set of accounts following last month's mass boardroom resignations. Juve's entire board quit as an investigation by prosecutors in Turin into allegations of false accounting and irregularities in the transfer and loans of players led to 15 people and the club being charged with a variety of offences. Tomorrow, revised losses for the 2021-22 season of €239.3 million will be ratified, the 5th straight set of annual accounts in the red. Tomorrow's meeting had been scheduled for 23rd November but was pushed back just over a week before the board announced its decision to step down. Chairman Andrea Agnelli was among those to resign, bringing an end to a 12-year reign, which brought a host of trophies and for a period re-established Juventus as one of Europe's best teams. Juve are accused of artificially inflating transfer values and also lying to the stock market when announcing at the height of the pandemic that players would help the club save €90 million by giving up their salaries for March, April, May and June 2020. Prosecutors say the club privately assured players they would only have to give up 1 month's salary, saving just €22 million. And with that, we end today's updates at noon. In our top story today, Batangkali's search operation, a model for future reference. Tune in to News at 10, coming up at 10 p.m. on my Freeviews saluran Berita RTM, channel 123. Now, here's a clip of squirrel monkeys and pandas receiving colourful treats for Christmas at Beauval Zoo in France. Thank you for watching. I'm Mohana Priya. Happy holidays.